Okay, welcome to our Backyard Brothers podcast. It is the day after the Super Bowl, Monday, February 12th, or as we like to call it, Black Monday. Um, so most of us in the world, I think, at this point, are sick and tired of seeing a certain team hoisting a certain trophy. But we're going to get into this though, and we're going to talk about it, and we're going to have a good time doing it. So some of us maybe more than others, but
Scott, you said, not so many people are happy. I saw so many Facebook posts of, I was cheering for the Chiefs because I didn't want to see Taylor Swift be sad if they lost. Or, I never watched football before this year, but since Taylor Swift's there, I started watching Go Chiefs. I saw a lot of those, so there may be more Chiefs fans than you expect.
Man, she has a lot of fans. They're not. When she breaks up with Travis Kelce, it's going to be like that much more hatred on the Chiefs, right? So there's going to be an entire album called "Shot Through the Heart" or something like that. I don't know, but okay, we'll get there in a second. But first, we're going to start off with a memory from Cody. So, Cody, take it away.
Yeah, so in conjunction with the overtime Super Bowl game we had last night, decided to go back to the last time we had an overtime Super Bowl game, which was 2016, Patriots and Falcons, and everyone knows that game too. All I have to say is 28-3, and we all know what we're talking about. And so this was the year 2016, if I'm correct. So I was actually I did not watch this game because I was actually still was I? Yeah, I was actually still on my mission. But I knew everything about it. So everyone knows about it, so I'll let you guys mostly talk about it. But it's the Falcons, led by Dan Quinn at the time, fantastic team on defense, fantastic team on offense. They were a complete team, and they just absolutely destroyed the Patriots in the first half. And then they didn't score a single point the rest of the game. They got shut out by the Patriots, and Tom Brady proved why he was the GOAT. And took them all the way back and went into overtime, and then ended up winning the game 34-28 or something like that. So I want to hear for each of your guys' experience on that game.
I'll jump in. There's a lot more connections than just overtime from this Super Bowl to the other one. The guy calling the plays for the Atlanta Falcons at the time, Kyle Shanahan. He was the Falcons offensive coordinator at the time. So he has now lost 3 Super Bowls, the 3 Super Bowls he's been in, 2 as the head coach and 1 as the offensive coordinator of the Falcons at that time. What's interesting is Mike Shanahan, his dad, also lost his first 3 Super Bowl attempts before winning his next 2. So there's a silver lining there that you can think of from a 49ers fan at least. But and there's a few other connections as well, but that's what I can think. And I remember watching it live and in my in-laws' house and thinking that I couldn't believe the amount of just domination that the Falcons had in that first half. It looked to be a case where we're watching a Super Bowl that's not even gonna be fun after halftime because it's going to be a 42-3 final score, and who saw that coming? Even there was a Tom Brady pick 6 in that game too in that first half. He threw a pick 6, and you're just thinking, on one hand, it's great we're going to get a new Super Bowl champion. On another hand, it's great that Tom Brady and the Patriots get to lose. But really, we're going to watch a bad Super Bowl. And then it turned out to be anything but, as the Patriots just turned it around and said, hey, we're going to wake up and we're going to finish this game the right way. And so it's when you're up 28-3 or when you're down 28-3, and you lose the game. If you're up 28-3, you should never lose a game, period, ever. And so a lot of it had to do with the Falcons, and Kyle Shanahan's play calling went very conservative after halftime. So they should have really kept on the gas. Go into it. It's a tied game at 0-0. We need to keep on the gas. And so there's a lot of failings by the Falcons in that game, but you can't discount the fact that Tom Brady went 34-0 after that point. And really showed why, like you said, Cody, why Tom Brady is the greatest of all time at this point. And it's hard to discount that when you come back from a 28-3 deficit in a Super Bowl to win a game. So there's a little bit of both sides you can talk about, and you needed both sides for that to happen.
I just remember reflecting on the game afterwards and just thinking, that we all knew deep down that you couldn't count them out quite yet until the game's over. And as the Patriots continue to score and score and score, it's like, wow, this is getting closer. But it was 28-9 at the end of the third quarter, right? And so, but that fourth quarter was incredible, and we just knew as they scored another time and another time that you can't count Brady out. And then I just remember, the much younger, version of me who thought it was important to post on Facebook about the game, did so, and it was just like that might have been the greatest Super Bowl ever. And I'm grateful that here we are thinking about yesterday. I haven't posted on Facebook, but yesterday's definitely is in that running as well.
Yeah, I got to agree. I think one of the things I took away from when I was watching that game was the same kind of sentiment that you can never count Tom Brady out. And I was anxious watching that game because I've always been kind of anti-Brady, anti-Patriots for them just slashing my team in the playoffs constantly, being the Colts, And so watching them get blown out, I was like elated. I couldn't believe how awesome it was that they were getting stomped on by the Falcons. And then you felt a momentum shift when the teams came out at halftime. It was two totally different teams, and I think, Scott, I agree with you. They had let off the gas. The Falcons let off the gas and weren't pushing the same tempo. They weren't sacking Tom Brady like they were. And I do got to mention one of the top 5 catches all time happened that game, in my opinion. Julian Edelman, when he catches it off of the guy's like feet and hands, there's two guys sandwiching him. Easily one of the best catches I've ever seen, and it was in a Super Bowl. So I thought that was something to mention for sure. And I think that's all I would really have for that. Is it was an incredible game, and I just couldn't believe the shift in momentum that we saw from 28-3 to losing by a touchdown is crazy.
Great memory. Cody, anything to add to wrap it up?
I don't think so, honestly. I think you guys all said it all pretty well. It was disheartening to see the Patriots win that game, but I mean, you also want a good football game, right? And that's what we got with that one.
Okay, that shifts pretty well into what we're going to talk about next. Let's see. Are you seeing my screen?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because this was also, whatever side you cheered for, this was also a great game all the way through. Neither team led by more than 10 points at any point in the game. And went into overtime, just the second overtime Super Bowl ever. And the final score, 25-22 Chiefs. Dustin and Yancey both got it right, but Yancey was closer in the score. And so Yancey got that one there. And here are the final scores. I finished best 9-4. Dustin in second at 7-6 with 4 closest scores. That's the tiebreaker that Yancey only had 3. And so finishes in third. And then Cody 2 games out of that. So yeah, 5-8. So now let's go back and talk about this game. I'm going to stop sharing again so we can talk to you. Okay. We don't have an order necessarily here. Let me, so you can see my face actually, because when I share, it automatically kills my camera. No order defined here. Does anyone want to start, or should I start, or should Dustin start, or does someone just want to jump in?
Give it to Dustin. He's itching, dude. You can see him over there. Give it to him.
Yeah. There's definitely a lot to unpack, and I'm not sure if I have an order of comments to go in. But I guess the first thing I say is that in all three of Kansas City's Super Bowls, they were down by multiple scores all three times. And so I wasn't all that nervous going into the third quarter knowing that. But watching that first half, I was like, hey, this is the Kansas City Chiefs team that I've seen all season long. This is the team that can't move the ball, that doesn't understand how offense and route running, and Mahomes that just runs around like a kid who's stole a candy bar and can't figure it out. But then they settled down and came out in the second half and played the Kansas City football that we've seen the last three games. And so that it was interesting to see that comparison, and I'm sure that you guys could see that this was not the same Kansas City Chiefs team that played in the first half or throughout the whole season. Then some other comments is, I don't know if it was the Chiefs defense or the San Francisco offense, but when San Francisco was doing well in that first quarter and Kansas City couldn't figure it out, 49ers just could not take advantage of it. And they made several key mistakes, right? Christian McButterfingers and then the muffed punt. That was just turned the ball over at tough times, and where they obviously could have scored during those, but then flipped the field for Kansas City in order to give them a score. Those two things just think that 49ers just could not take advantage of a very sluggish Kansas City offense in order to put more points on, and that allowed the game to be close, where it felt, I think Tony Romo even said it felt like it should be, 20-0. It felt like it should be a huge blowout, but it wasn't. It was always just this one score game at halftime. And then in the second half with some great plays, Mahomes using his legs was exciting to see that. I especially liked that triple option play that they ran in order to get that fourth down. I thought that was great. And then the last play of the game was that's the Andy Reid special. He does that anytime he needs a play, and it's that he sends someone on a short motion, and that forces the defenders, if they're in man, to switch. And then all of a sudden you have an inside defender defending a receiver who's going to run straight for the sideline. And that's exactly what it was. And 49ers got mixed up on defense and got had Hardman in the end zone. I guess I don't know what other comments I have there, but it was definitely exciting for me. I was pacing behind the couch for the whole fourth quarter and overtime, and was very excited when I saw that final pass go and was yelling and jumping. And it was exciting time for me.
Yeah, I'll follow that up since I was on the other side of it. But I agree with a lot of your comments. And I also am trying to unpack everything and figuring out where to start. But let me start with saying that the 49ers defense was special for most of that game. You can obviously see where they were focusing. They were keeping their rush lanes they were keeping Patrick Mahomes in the pocket, and that frustrated him a lot. It didn't let Patrick Mahomes do what he wanted to do. And so it really, the 49ers defense was just faster than the Chiefs offense for most of that game. And it was really exciting to see, especially after the last two games that the 49ers played, that they didn't play very well in defense, but they really did in the Super Bowl. And like you said, Dustin, the Chiefs from this regular season showed up in the first half, and and then they kind of figured it out. They got it figured out. Their defense has been special all season, and I thought the Chiefs' defense was fantastic as well. And both defenses were really, really good, and it really showed up in the beginning of the second half. I thought really the 49ers got out of their system in that second half, the beginning of it at least, and it really showed. And it's credit to the Chiefs defense. Where I think there were 2 straight possessions where the 49ers didn't even run the ball once, and that was getting to what the Ravens struggles were. And that's what the Chiefs defense, I'm realizing the last couple of games, that's what they can do. They can get you out of your system. And the 49ers got back to what they did, and that's why they ended up taking the lead and getting into overtime at that point. But I was really impressed with both defenses, really. It came down to, I think Yancey said offline that it was a sloppy game, and it ended up being whoever made the fewest mistakes was going to win. Because both teams made a bunch of mistakes. I can count 3 very big mistakes from the Chiefs. Obviously, the Pacheco fumble down at the 9-yard line was huge. And then Pacheco dropped that toss. Technically, it was a bad toss by Mahomes, but on a first down there. And then a very uncharacteristic, awful throw from Mahomes that was intercepted. Those three mistakes from the Chiefs. But the 49ers had more. I think they had 4 or 5 mistakes, and they were bigger. You don't think about it as much, but the missed extra point that was blocked. Imagine if the Chiefs were down 4 rather than 3, where they had to score a touchdown rather than a field goal. That changes the entire complexion of that game. Maybe the Chiefs win in regulation rather than having to force overtime, but maybe they have to go the length of the field rather than all the way, and it changes what you call. It changes everything. It's a big, big mistake by the kicker, Jake Moody. And then obviously the fumble by McCaffrey going in that you mentioned. It wasn't a muff punt necessarily. It hit off the shoe of a 49ers player, but still right there at the goal line where the Chiefs score the next play. And then a bunch of penalties and things like that. And then got to talk about the call from the 49ers to take the ball in the first possession of overtime. Kyle Shanahan explained it later that he wanted, he wanted to take the third possession. He was already expecting a tie and a tie, whether it was a field goal or a touchdown and a touchdown. He wanted the opportunity to win the game with the third possession. You can understand that, but that's, in my mind, you want to control it. You don't want to give Patrick Mahomes 4 downs every time, where you have to, that's a recipe for disaster. So in my mind, that's a mistake too. And then there's things that came out that the 49ers didn't understand the rules in overtime. Like, first of all, that's a coaching mistake. You got to tell your players. But at the other time, the 49ers players, you should figure that out yourself too. Like, you don't rely on your coach to tell you the rules. You go figure it out. You're in the Super Bowl. You better, hey, if it goes to overtime, what happens? Like, be an adult. Go read the rules. So a bunch of the 49ers simply made more mistakes than the Chiefs did, and that's what it came down to.
You can go, Yancey.
All right, cool. So I think a thing that I didn't really hear anybody mention was the injuries of the 49ers. It was a guy would go down, a guy would go down, a guy would go down, and they were important guys, didn't they? At one point, they had lost Kittle, they had lost Samuels, or Debo Samuel. They had lost
Dre Greenlaw. Yeah.
Greenlaw, which was like their anchor on defense. We stopped seeing pressure. We stopped seeing the sacks. They were still able to contain the lanes for the defensive ends. I was glad that you mentioned that because I felt like that influenced the offense a lot. But injuries really came through, I think, at key moments in the game as well, to really just kind of dishearten and start to break down what the 49ers were doing well. Brock Purdy shit the bed in the third quarter. He just stopped performing well. He did start to perform better later on, but I just didn't. I saw an entirely different guy out there. and I didn't know what was going on. I think at one point I even texted about it, like 4 of 11 is a problem if the 49ers want to have success. And during the times that he's making these mistakes, we're having injuries for the 49ers side. Mahomes is picking up the energy. He did throw an interception, but I think he outthrew Purdy by almost 100 yards, didn't he? It was something like that. And there were mistakes on both sides. It was a sloppy game. But Dustin, like you were mentioning, the 49ers didn't capitalize on a single mistake made by the Chiefs. They were shooting themselves in the foot. And then when I hand you the gun to shoot me in the foot, you shot yourself in the other foot. And it doesn't make sense. And you can't win football games playing like that. That's what it boiled down to, is too many bad things happening at too many times where you needed good things happening, and just stuff not going your way. And it's not like they got blown out. They lost the game by 3 points. But I think that extra point was important, Scott, to your point, extremely important. Like, you almost never see that. So when somebody blocks a field goal, it's like, oh man, what are we doing? And then it's almost like you're having bad luck. You don't deserve to win the game. The guy gets hit in the foot by the ball. Like, when does that happen? Pay attention. And so just key mistakes in key areas of a game, that's too important to make those mistakes against a team that is like half Irish, half rabbit foot. I don't get it. They're lucky.
Right. Well, I have basically everything I have to say is just reiterating what a lot of you guys have said. So, like you said, Scott and Dustin, both teams had really, really good defenses. It was really, really impressive. And I think it's important for us to realize, especially in a Super Bowl setting, that every single play really matters when you think about it, and when it gets down to it. We've already mentioned about the mistakes. We've already mentioned about the key plays. But another thing I think about is the pass that Brock Purdy ended up overthrowing to Deebo Samuel. It could have been a touchdown, but he ended up overthrowing it because he was being rushed by
Chris Jones.
The monster, Chris Jones. And so that's a play being made by Chris Jones right there. Had he not gotten in there, had he been 1 second slower, that's a touchdown. That's a touchdown, and 49ers win that game. The penalties that you get, and you have to go back 10 yards, and then you're on 3rd and 20 or something like that. Things like little things, all those little things stack up, and it really makes a difference. And so every play really, really matters. And I feel like a lot of people forget that, and it's like, oh, this is a big play, or that's a big play, and stuff like that. No, every single play is a big play, especially when you're in the Super Bowl. From 15 minutes in quarter one to the end of regulation or end of overtime. And so that's the biggest deal for me, I guess, looking at it. I think that Mahomes is just special. He just can't be stopped, it seems. He and Andy Reid team is really just one of the best right now. And I wonder how much longer we'll have that duo before Andy Reid decides to retire. I know he's kind of getting towards that end. But yeah, Mahomes is just special, and this can be a conversation for another day. But I think he's well on his way to having that debate with Tom Brady. So we'll have that conversation another day.
Yeah, a couple of things I wanted to mention, almost to kind of wrap it up with a bow. I mean, in a couple of weeks, we'll have a final NFL season review of these teams and things like that. But you think about, like, the Chiefs have won 3 of their last 5 Super Bowls, and there's never in the history of the NFL been a three-peat. Did you know that? Ever. And so the Chiefs can make history by winning 3 in a row next year. Obviously, they're going to do everything they can to do that, and so that's history right there. And the Chiefs should be right up there again in that conversation. As far as the 49ers, obviously, you talk about championship windows and things like that. I think the window is open for another 2 years for the 49ers because of the contract situation with Brock Purdy. You can afford to bring a lot of other people on until Brock Purdy gets that extension. And so that's in 2 years. So the 49ers have 2 more years in this current context to be one of the best teams in the NFL and get back to the Super Bowl. And so I'm excited for the next 2 years for the 49ers. They'll be in that conversation at least for the next 2 years. And we'll see what happens when Brock Purdy hits that extension. You have to lose a bunch of other great players to afford him. But so we'll talk about all these teams and all the NFL season going forward. Anyone have any other things to put a stamp on the sticker and all that?
Just one other thing is, I wonder if I jinxed it in a way. Let me tell you why. So I was looking at in the text messages, our offline chat, and I had said it was when Patrick Mahomes overthrew the pass through the interception, and I said, looks like the Niners are doing great right now. I was like, but last time someone said that, we know what happened. I texted that, and then this happens. And so I'm like, well, I hope I didn't jinx it, but that's just the way it is. You just can't count the Chiefs out. Like Mahomes said, they're never underdogs.
Yeah, I mean, again, from a fan's perspective on the losing side, heartbroken, disheartened, all those words you want to throw out, but it was a great game, and I'm like the 49ers were in it and they dominated for the whole first half. And so it's not like this was a 42-10 kind of game. Like the 49ers belonged there. They deserved to be there. They played as good as the Chiefs did for all but maybe 1 or 2 plays of that game. And so I'm proud of the 49ers season. And you just sometimes run into a dynasty team. That's what's happening at this point. Joe Montana denied Dan Marino Super Bowls because he won 3 in a row or 3 out of 4 in the 80s. And Tom Brady denied. I mean, the reason Drew Brees only has 1 Super Bowl is because, you had Drew Brees and Aaron Rodgers only have 1 Super Bowl each because you had Tom Brady over there winning 7. And so that's the way it is sometimes. That's football. That's life.
Yeah, that's good. You talked about the 49ers championship window. They're a great team, and it's don't fall into the trap of we have to blow it up. We gotta figure it out that this was a good team and a couple plays go differently and they're the ones holding the trophy and they just gotta commit to the season. But on the other side, on the Chiefs side, that I'm happy about is as soon as they won the game, they said, hey, we have the opportunity for a 3-peat. So we're going to celebrate. And then that's our focus, is that the Chiefs are immediately saying we're locked in for next year, that who all 31 teams be aware you're going to find us in the Super Bowl and we're going to win a 3-peat. That was their attitude immediately, was we have the chance to do something legendary, and they're immediately focused on it. And so as we look forward to next year, know that they're already poised to be the most dangerous team in the NFL with their sights on legend.
Okay, like I said, in a couple of weeks, we're going to wrap up the entire season team by team. But that's not going to happen today. We're going to log off for a second so we can end this recording, and then we're going to start talking about some basketball. So see you all in about a minute or less.